to let you read the email.
You ready?
You should have did that before they started.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
Good afternoon. Welcome to iSpeak Blog Radio. This is a radio talk show where we come to you with voices of our opinions, pose questions, and dialogue about issues related to constitutional law, particularly the First Amendment.
Buenas, por el próximo 30 minutos vamos a discutir las preguntas y temas sobre la primera enmienda y la inmigración. La pregunta para hoy, ¿cuáles protecciones tienen los inmigrantes? I am your host, Shauna Guyton, and I'm a third-year law student here at NCCU School of Law in Durham, North Carolina. I'm accompanied by my co-host, Captain Marlon Jenkins, also a third-year law student here at NCCU School of Law. Before we begin, I'd like to thank our producers, Brenda Reddix-Smalls, and our third-year student, Jillian Mack, who has organized our program for today. Before we get started, let's go over some ground rules. Please refrain from disparaging, offensive, indecent, hateful, harassing, obscene, or pornographic comments. Let's keep it clean and professional.
Remember, the number for the show is 310-807-5123. Other ways to reach us are www.blogtalkradio/iSpeak. You can also follow us on Twitter at iSpeak Blog Radio. You can follow us on Facebook at iSpeak Blog Radio. Or you can email us questions or comments at ispeakblogradio@gmail.com. Calling into the show. When you call, be patient with us. Remain on the line until you hear the last 4 digits of your phone number. At that point, you will be live on the air and may proceed with your question or comment. Okay, let's begin. This is our third show of the fall 2011 semester. The topic today is One Nation for All, as long as you speak English.
All right, this week we will be discussing the First Amendment as it relates to immigration. Immigration has been a trending topic for the past decade or so. It's been an increasingly debated issue and one of major importance, especially coming into the 2012 presidential elections. Just recently, Alabama, for example, passed a new immigration law requiring public schools to document the legal status of children upon enrollment. The number of students who failed to show up in school this past weekend varied from 200 in Huntsville, Alabama to 107 in Albertsville, Alabama.
Absent students were particularly high in countries with high Hispanic populations. As a result, many immigrant families are withdrawing their children from school. The law mirrors Arizona's new law, the Support of Law Enforcement and Safe Neighborhoods Act, SB 1070, which has caused a huge national controversy.
Yes, there's a U.S. federal law requires all aliens over the age of 14 who remain in the United States for longer than 30 days to register with the U.S. government and to have registration documents in their possession at all time. The Arizona Act additionally makes it a state misdemeanor for an alien to be in Arizona without carrying the required documents. So the question that we'd like to pose to our audience today is this. Do the protections of our U.S. Constitution extend to illegal immigrants? And if so, which ones? Before we take callers, we'd like to further clarify our issue as to how the laws relate to the First Amendment.
The First Amendment to the United States Constitution is a part of the Bill of Rights. The amendment prohibits the making of any law respecting the establishment of religion, impeding the free exercise of religion, abridging the freedom of speech, infringing on the freedom of press, interfering with the right to peacefully assemble, or prohibiting the petition for a government redress of grievances.
Do these laws violate an individual's or these individuals' First Amendment rights by exposing speakers to scrutiny based on their language or accent? So if we can agree that U.S. inhabitants, illegal or not, are entitled to certain protections under the U.S. Constitution, Are these laws not just encroaching on their freedoms? The laws are silencing illegal immigrants. According to an article in the New York Times published yesterday, volunteers of an immigrant rights group hotline said that since the enactment in Alabama, they received more than 1,000 calls from pregnant women who are afraid to go to the hospital, crime victims who are afraid to go to the police, and parents who are afraid to send their children to school. What about the right to speak? What of the right not to speak? Is this a chilling effect that's being imposed on these inhabitants?
When you call in, we ask that you please be patient with us. Remain on the line until you hear the last 4 digits of your number, and at that point you will be live on the air and may proceed with your question or comment.
Para comentar, marque 310-807-5123. Quedar en la línea hasta que oyes los últimos 4 dígitos de su número de teléfono. A este momento puedes continuar con su pregunta o comentario. Let's go to our first caller. Hello, caller 7816. If you could state your name and your profession and where you're calling from.
Good afternoon. This is Kia Vernon. I am a professor. I'm an attorney at law, and I'm also an assistant professor at North Carolina Central University School of Law.
Yes, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you all this afternoon.
You can go ahead and proceed with your comment or question.
Well, the first thing that I wanted to do, first I'd like just to commend all of you all on this engaging discussion, because I think this is something that needs to be discussed within our communities, and the only way that we're going to be, to be able to make a difference and to provide one nation for all to all people, regardless of the language that they speak, is to have these kind of issues and these kinds of forums. In regards to the topic for today, it is clear that we do have a problem in our country. One of the classes that I teach here at North Carolina Central University School of Law is a Spanish for Lawyers class. And so this issue is something that we've discussed, especially in light of the decision in Arizona. Just in terms of the actual problem, we do have an influx of individuals, not only in our country, that are of Hispanic or Latino origin, but they're also in our state. In our state alone, from 2000 to 2010, our Hispanic population rose 111.1%. And so this is something that we all concerned about. In terms of rights are being infringed upon, I think it's clear that legislations, those that have been enacted in Alabama, those that were in Arizona, that they infringe upon the rights of these individuals. Regardless of whether or not are documented or undocumented, they, by mere presence in our country, have rights. The Constitution applies to those individuals.
So do you do agree that these individuals taught or encouraged to learn English, even though it's not necessarily the nationally recognized? It's the nationally recognized language, of course, because the majority of our speak it, but it's not official language of the United States. Do you agree that they should English?
I mean, you're correct. It isn't there is no language in the United States. Or the entire, large. However, there are certain states, 31 of them, that do have provisions within their either their action or within their statutes that there is an official that particular state. And so North Carolina, we do within our state on General Statute 145-2 have a state language statute which dictates that the common of the United States is as well as in the state of North Carolina. And so even provision, I think, English is a language, but I do think it requires someone to speak a language other than is a violation of human rights. And so we've seen cases where we're not only had that we're not going to teach you, and they've said to you, to individuals who don't speak, it can allow you to speak any other language but English in our schools, and people have been suspended for that reason. I think that is unquestionably a violation of their First Amendment rights, and I think at some point you provide some kind of services to enable them to acquire the necessary in order to function in our society. And so to be able to, you have to teaching them in their target language, they have to be taught. They have to be taught English in order for them to speak the official language.
Yes, thank you. If you can just stay on the line for just one moment, we're going to add another caller to our conversation.
Yes, caller 311, you are now. Could you please give us your question or comment?
tardes, mi nombre es Christopher Bond. ¿Con quién hablo?
Sí, con Christopher, ¿cómo estás hoy?
Estoy muy bien, gracias. ¿Cómo están ustedes allá?
Bueno, sigue con su pregunta, por favor. En inglés o español, cualquiera, está bien.
Okay, I'll tender my English. Thank you for having me, first of all. And I was a teacher before I came to law school in Austin County, North Carolina. And I just want to ask the question of, it's obviously the topic of illegal is such a sensitive topic amongst and voters, to the point politicians just absolutely decline and dodge questions on this. And I guess my question is, such a sensitive topic, and why does it inflame people so much that politicians won't even discuss?
To answer your question, I think politicians avoid the questions because it's polarizing. It's difficult to be in the middle on, and I prefer those subjects when provide rhetoric to parties. I would that the reason that it may be so potent is because speaking specifically to his large speakers is beginning to authority, which benefiting them in some way that may away from other.
Professor Vernon, I asked this question to see if you could sir. Caller Christopher, and this is such a growing topic among us today.
Well, I think it's a look at the numbers, and the answer is there. It used the nation of history of our nation. Our nation is a nation of us have one passion to the United States. The people or their family and their from another. And so historically, we are a nation of it. I think the appliance a number of our board and of a system legislation
that in order to address how do we all these individuals. The problem is that different people have opinions on how to address the problem of immigration. So what are our policies going to have to make sure of all nation for all people, but how do we who's here and were you just a people that were coming over that we doing over that well how many them all, and so suggest by 50 one in every four will be or will have some type of into their family. So we'll panic word. Problem has been the terms of this. Now people are something that we to deal with.
I will very get to this conversation. I was posting questions about illegal aliens. Excuse me, of illegal. So legal actually have rights under the Constitution illegal.
6020. Caller 6020, you're now with us. Could you give us your comment or your question?
Yes. I would like to start off by saying I sympathize with the people who have found the need or the necessity to move to a new country in order to better their lives and that of their family. But we can never forget that the United States is a nation of laws. And to that end, what has to be important is those laws have to be respected. If a commission of the crime is the basis of furthering or improving your standing in the world, it's still the basis of a crime. America is no different than any other country. We cannot allow people to commit a crime, even for the best of reasons, and then allow that crime to go unpunished. Illegal immigration is a crime. And when someone immigrates illegally, they basically butt in front of the line of everyone who is attempting to enter this country legally, which does a disservice to everyone who is immigrating utilizing the rule of law.
Caller 6020, I have a question for you in reference to your argument.
Yes.
My question is, to you, how do you outweigh the burden versus the benefit? Some would say that the reason the jobs such as excuse me, you have some background noise. Could you turn that down, please?
Yes.
So my question to you is, these illegal immigrants do primarily agriculture work. They do primarily labor work. So without them, some may say that these jobs may not be done. So what is your argument to say the benefit that they provide versus the laws that they break or the burden that they place on the taxpayer?
Actually, I don't believe there's enough evidence to forward that argument. But what I have heard the argument for, what has to be understood that if there is a job that someone won't do, what's actually at play is someone will not do that job for the price or for the wage that is being offered. What has to happen is market forces are guided by wages that are paid to workers and by owners having to pay the necessary wage to have their work done. Wages will be increased to a level to where Americans will do those jobs only when they are forced to do it. Illegal immigrants allow employers to undercut labor prices and natural forces that would occur. There will always be someone who will pick agriculture. There will always be people who will do those jobs. But they will be able to demand a competitive wage because they have the rights to be able to enforce those wages. When you're an illegal immigrant, it's difficult for you to enforce your rights because you're here on an illegal basis, so you're unlikely to want to interact with law enforcement or contact the proper authorities. And business owners in the past have used this fear in order to institute sweatshops and to lower wages for illegals.
So thank you for your call and your comments, caller 6020. If you could continue on the line, because we may return to you. One thing that you said that brought about something that's always concerned in reference to the Constitution, particularly the First Amendment, is the chilling effect. The chilling effect. We have said, we have mentioned how the Constitutional amendments have the chilling effect, which basically means
people are afraid to speak. People have a right to petition their government. As we stated before, there's only one clause that directs, that protects rights of U.S. citizens, and that's the Privileges and Immunities Clause, which states that no law can be enacted that infringes upon these rights. So if we're talking about due process, equal protection, 14th Amendment, illegal immigrants do have certain protections under the United States, and shouldn't they be able to petition to the government without being fearful of being detained or documented and taken out of the country? Let's go to our next caller, 3525. Hello, are you with us?
I'm not sure if that's me.
Yes, it is. How are you doing today?
Very good. I want to address that gentleman that just spoke about labor being too cheap, or that there's an idea out there that, by the way, I'm a general contractor here in Raleigh, and I got to tell you that it doesn't matter what the wages were. We did not have the labor. We did not have the manpower for the growth that happened here in North Carolina, that happened in Arizona, that happened in Las Vegas, that happened in Florida. We powered And we not only empowered, we encouraged the labor to come over. Now that we've had an economic catastrophe, everyone's concerned about illegal immigration, or after it was a combination of 9/11, the fall of our economy. Until then, everybody was winking and knowing very well what was going on, not have had the economic boom that without this labor. Now that problem, we're turning on them and saying, oh, you came here illegally. Oh, the law. But in trueness, how do we encourage that come over the border? There was no trying to. Anyone that says so is just not true.
Thank you for your comment, caller.
And can I comment as well?
Yes.
In reference to the previous caller as well, the issue, and I think the issue has been over morality, or most people who advocate for the rights of inhabitants just they petition for, and our questions, issues go in terms of what happened they're here. And so by no means am I, nor most of the people who are after the rights of those undocumented, are we advocating for and to break the law. But the questions they're here is not entitled to the same rights of everyone else under the Constitution. And I think that is yes. And so an individual that encourages to break the law, absolutely not. The problem is that we have not at our borders, that people have come in. Those people are entitled here or while they're here to the protection afforded to everyone else via the Constitution. And I think in terms of most recent caller was also that we have, or because of the type of, even within our state, because of the type of industry that we have and have heavy agriculture, that there was an article in the news on, I think, Saturday, but that discussed that we have, or maybe paper, that we have a very high number of foreign visas that we apply, that we can acquire in terms of people coming in, just because of the fact we have these positions that need to, and they aren't being by individuals who are here and who are here have to put people come in from other countries, other foreign workers to come in, because the people aren't meeting those needs in those positions.
And thanks for Vernon. I hate to cut you off, but we appreciate thoughts in reference to that. And I'll pose a question based off what before we take our next caller is. We are focusing on what happens when they're here, but isn't that what the states are doing? States use their like the 10th Amendment to protect the border. Aren't they saying that we are going to enact these, such as stats show that Alabama and North Carolina are amongst the fastest growing states of population? Aren't what they're doing in their hands to be able to protect their border? If you could just hold 1 second, take this next caller.
Caller 2049. Caller 2049. All right. Oh, yes.
Can I just say one? Can I butt in here because I misrepresented myself? I wasn't, Professor Vernon. I was not saying the individual companies were asking individuals to break the law. What I was the point of is we empowered once they were for them to continue to come in, because such a job opportunity here. Even the states and the federal government, people tax ID so that they could work.
Right, and my comment specific to you and to your caller, but rather the previous of coming in illegally.
Could you all appreciate the comments, and could you hold please in this other caller, caller 443. Caller 43, could you please provide us or to this conversation?
Hello, yes. I think it is a very good topic for today that really needs to be addressed. I had a couple of things I just want to say. I do think that immigrants should be entitled to some rights, such as being able to go to those and receive services. For all rights provided under the Constitution, I'm just not so sure about. The problem is that there are immigrants who come here and do try to establish a better lifestyle for themselves. At the same time, the problem is that there are a number of immigrants who come over here and commit crimes. So as far as like, how do we remedy them when, sure, there's the small people who come over and try to do better, but there's also another population of people who come over in capitalistic society, but the illegal route and try to do it that way.
Monica,
so
if I could just quickly,
helping those people as well as those who commit crimes here.
Could just quickly ask or pose you did say earlier that you believe that aliens should be afforded some rights. Which rights are you saying that they shouldn't? what rights should to them. And as far as immigrants committing crimes, they're U.S. inhabitants that commit the same crimes. So, just to clarify what you're saying.
I do think they should be entitled free speech. I do think that should be granted to everyone. To touch on something said a little earlier, I don't think they should be limited as far as speaking their native language. However, I do think there should be the understanding that English is going to be the language that is taught. Me personally, I actually grew up in a school. Instruction were given in both English and Spanish. See where that is beneficial. Growing up, I just never really understood why will also be given in Spanish. You know, English is the predominant language. As far as why did not be extended, I have to look at the U.S. Constitution in order to give a good answer. I know that not every afforded to illegal immigrants, because otherwise, what's the benefit of being a U.S. citizen if you could be here and still be afforded every?
Yes, thank you, caller. If we'd like to invite caller 202 give us our question. 602.
Yes. I want to first clarify something. My understanding and my concern is simple. The states have police power and attempt to control how citizens behave and interact with immigrants. No one on this program has argued the illegal immigrants have not broken the law. So from that, we must know that states have a right to control and use their police to limit illegal immigration states. And to that end, that means preventing them from accessing right facilities and were meant for legal citizens, legal visitors. There is a line to enter, and that line is based on.
Caller 620.
Without that line, so we have to accept that if you were illegally, and then you still need to at some point, step into the line, or in some cases return to your country and start the process correctly. Be naturalized legally, accepting the fact that you have committed a crime. First step to legalization is committed a crime.
Well, thank you very much, caller 020, for your participation. Appreciate your thoughts in reference to the controversial subject. So, has discussed and spoke
90 seconds
and discussed and spoke about how the immigration in general go the first